You know, I don't know. I always think it's interesting why some people choose that very back row. I see it back there, John.
I know. We can still see you.
We must be like that scary that they're like, oh, I'm staying away.
I mean,
Your reputation precedes you, I guess.
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
It's as if we shoot somebody or like rubber binders. or
1:30, we'll call the meeting to order, July 11th, 2022, Health and Human Services Board. First, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being with us today. First order of business is the meeting minutes from 6/13 of 2022. Anyone have anything to add or delete or change?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and approval of the agenda. Anyone have anything to add or change or remove from the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, the consent agenda. Anyone have anything to add or change on the consent agenda today?
Good morning, Commissioners. Nothing to add or change, but I would like to let you know that Jocelyn Alexander, the person who is seeking application to our Mental Health Advisory Committee, is here today with her daughter Vivian. So this is Jocelyn and Vivian. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to see you in attendance, thanks.
Anyone doesn't have anything to change?
Matt, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
And
Motion
with that,
made,
appreciate Jocelyn's attendance today. Thank you.
All right, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Regular agenda, we have a staffing announcement with many new hires, and I'll just say welcome to all the new hires. You all be identified and recognized, but it's up to you if you have any items you want to share with the board.
First of all, we have Elizabeth Pikus. She's our new child support officer. So Elizabeth is standing. I told Elizabeth 30 years ago I started as a child support officer. So hang in there long enough, anything can happen, I guess. So thank you, Elizabeth. She reports to Karen Popkin, and she started on June 27th.
So,
Should we put her through the?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, should we put her through the normal?
the two questions.
Questions that Commissioner Dahline asked?
Well, the "we" will be from you three. I already gave my introduction,
Okay.
so
Oh,
help yourself, Commissioner Wetter. Do you have anything?
Elizabeth, yeah, so where did you come from, another agency, or is this,
Nope, I came from Encore.
okay,
Maybe
It's a
she
debt
should
collection
come up.
company.
okay. And you live in the area? Or-
I live in Kimball.
Okay, great,
Thank you, Elizabeth.
thank you.
We have Samantha, who goes by Sam. Oh, I didn't even ask about her last name. Eisensee? Yep. Okay, and so Sam is our new social worker. She's in our intake and investigation team, and that is with Jessica. She started on the same day as Elizabeth, June 27th.
Hello, Sam.
So same
Welcome.
questions for you.
Who wants to ask Sam questions? Well, Sam, yeah. Do you want to answer those same questions?
Yeah, I come from Winona, Minnesota, from Family and Children's Center. I was a case manager, and I'm currently living in Shakopee.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you, Sam. We have Courtney Kruger, who is an eligibility specialist in our family and adult benefits team, which is now named the FAB team for family and adult benefits. She started also on June 27th. So Courtney is way over on the side over here. So same questions for you, Courtney.
So I come from dispatch at the sheriff's office next door.
Oh,
I'm from French Lake.
Very nice.
Thanks, Courtney.
welcome.
We also have with us today Carrie Cook. She's another eligibility specialist. She also started on June 27th, and she is in the Economic Engagement and Coordination Operations Team called our ECHO team. Where is, and Courtney works with, oh my gosh, I'm losing all my words, with Stephanie Wiley. So same questions, Courtney.
My background is in
Carrie,
mortgage
sorry.
processing mostly.
I'm sorry, I was talking
Oh,
over
sorry.
myself, so go ahead.
My background is mostly in mortgage processing,
Mortgage processing, okay.
and I live in Big Lake.
Okay, Big Lake. So you probably are pretty used to rules and interpreting rules and kind of those kinds of things, so that should work out really well for you here. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Carrie.
You had to fill in with the questions because you were retired.
Good.
We also
Glad
have,
somebody's taking over.
we also have Jasmine Keith. She is another eligibility specialist in our Economic Engagement and Coordination Operations team, also in Stephanie's ECHO team, and this is Jasmine. So same questions, Jasmine.
So I actually came from call center work, a lot of collections, and I actually live in Buffalo.
Oh.
So
Good.
Good.
Score one for Buffalo. Thanks, Jasmine. And we have Alexis, who goes by Lexi. There she is. Taslar? Taslar. She's a social worker in our assessment services team. She reports to Rochelle Kramer, who couldn't be here today, and she started on today.
Oh, brand new.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lexi.
Sorry.
I come from Winona also. I worked at Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center before this, and I'm also a Buffalo resident.
Oh, very good.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
So welcome and thank you to all of our new staff. It's great to have a lot of you starting at the same time and going through this together. So
Yes.
welcome.
Next, we have Employee of the Month for July and August.
Yes, and actually, I'm going to invite both of them to come up at the same time. Again, kind of protection in numbers. You already mentioned how nobody wants to sit in the front. Well, no one wants to stand up here with just me either. So I am going to start with our last month's, come on up, you guys, all the way. Our July Employee of the Month, it's Roseanne Duran. Roseanne is a child support officer. And with our child support team, Roseanne joined Financial Services in September 2001 and moved to child support in 2008. Roseanne has been active on several committees with HHS, most recently with our Employee Relations Committee, of which she is a past president, or chair, I suppose I should say. Roseanne's nominator states, Roseanne is a joy to listen to when talking with clients coming from the HSC. I've had very little interaction with her over the years. With the move to the new building, we sit close to each other, and I have come to learn the intricacies of child support. Roseanne talks with many different parents throughout the day, and some can be difficult. Even though I can only hear one side of the conversation, I know that some of these parents can be very difficult. Roseanne never lets it show in her voice that she is losing patience with them. I applaud her for her consistently calm demeanor, clear answers even when they are upset and being rude to her, and her continuous exceptional customer service. So thank you, Roseanne, and congratulations on being our HHS July Employee of the Month. I believe Roseanne may have an announcement to make as well. Don't know, do you have your retirement already?
Yes, I do.
Don't tell them.
So I will be retiring next April.
Next April. So she's been with us quite. No, that's it. The board says no. So here you go, Roseanne. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next board, we have Andrea Bixby. She is our August Employee of the Month. Andrea is an eligibility specialist with our healthcare team, METS. Andrea worked, that should be enough to say Employee of the Month when you talk about METS sometimes. Andrea worked at the License Center DMV for about 12 years and joined HHS as an Office Tech 2 in 2017 before her promotion to the eligibility specialist position in May 2018. Andrea's nominator states, and we always like getting these nominations when they come from the outside. We have a link on our website and people can go in and put in their bid for an Employee of the Month. And this particular person says, Andrea was so nice and helpful when I had questions regarding an MA application. She solved every problem quickly, and when she needed to look further into things, she called me back within 10 minutes. She was very friendly and kind, even when I was confused on some things. So helpful, and she encapsulated all you could hope for in someone working with human services. I'm so grateful for her help and kindness. When I received medical assistance for myself and my son, it was such a relief. Andrea's supervisor describes Andrea as a processing powerhouse. She also says Andrea is always willing to help, is very patient, and she's invaluable on the METS team. So thank you, Andrea, and congratulations on being our August HHS Employee of the Month. So two fantastic EOMs. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So should that have been June and July, or how are we doing?
No,
August.
we bring sorry. Well, with Commissioner Burrell, we debated this many, many times. So to cut to the chase, we determined that we would bring the following month's Employee of the Month to the earlier month's board meeting, so it doesn't lag behind, especially with just our one meeting a month. So we get them on our website and all that kind of stuff. Their pictures put up there, and they're able to start using their things like using the fun parking spots. So they get the latitude of having the entire month at their disposal of being the Employee of the Month. So we do it the month before. We just brought July's in because Roseanne wasn't here last month.
Okay, fair enough. You have the parking spots? Are they working out over here? I didn't know if that,
Yes, they should be using the parking spot right next to mine, number 17, in the numbered spots behind the building.
okay, good. All right, next, approve a resolution for the June donation.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolutions for the June donations.
All right,
I'll second that.
motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, a roll call vote. Commissioner Delayden?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
Nice to get $3,600, so.
Thank you. And
We have the update for AmeriCorps Senior RSVP Program.
yes, so I'd like to invite to the podium Jennifer Wucherer. She is the RSVP Program Director, and with her is Carol McNaughton, and she is the RSVP Program Coordinator. They have a presentation for you today. And if you recall, RSVP is we have an individual upstairs working on second floor from RSVP, and that the county, actually, and Jennifer can probably explain it, Wright County was included in the federal grant for RSVP, believe starting in 2021.
That's right.
And I had the honor of hearing Jennifer at Rotary, months back, or,
Oh, wonderful,
so.
wonderful. Well, Commissioners, thank you for having us today. It just seemed like it was just yesterday that I was here with our former coordinator, Heather Brooks, presenting in your old building. So we're happy to be back here. I'm the director of the Central Minnesota RSVP program that's sponsored by the city of St. Cloud, but we're a federal program through AmeriCorps Seniors. And I've got Carol McNaughton Commerce with us as well.
Carol's
She
like her.
is new to our program. She's our program coordinator for Wright and Sherburne counties. And she joined us in February. I hope you get a chance to meet Carol soon. She's delightful. And I would say that our seniors in this community, as well as those human service organizations that we're partnering with, are in good hands with Carol. We've been serving Central Minnesota since 1973. And as Jamie said, we expanded into Wright County with our federal grant in April of 2021. So we just finished our first year, closed out on that, and working in Wright County. Our mission is to foster volunteer engagement for adults 55 plus to improve lives and strengthen communities. Just want to give you the full picture of our service in last year in 2021 in our 4-county region. We had 823 active volunteers that contributed over 74,000 hours of volunteer service in the region. They serve nonprofits, licensed healthcare, and government entities in those 4 counties, assisting with areas such as financial stability. Food security is one of our top priority areas, healthy aging, K-12 education, other community issues. Our volunteers supported veterans, transportation needs, especially for older adults, and health and wellness areas in our communities. Pictured here is a recent picture from the Wright County Positive Aging Expo that took place this past May at the Buffalo Civic Center. We had the opportunity to not only have a booth to share more information with the community members on program opportunities through RSVP, but we also had volunteers that staffed the registration area at the expo. We would really welcome further exploration with you and the county stakeholders as to how senior volunteers can enhance services and support the needs of the members of Wright County communities. I'm going to turn it over to Carol here for more.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. So glad to be here. Thank you so much. As we settle into year 2 of our grant here in Wright County, just give you a little update as to where we're at. We're, of course, focusing our energy on both establishing partnerships in Wright County as well as recruiting volunteers here, volunteers age 55 and older. And for the volunteers, we really focus on a personalized, customized experience. It's focused on the individual. It's an easy enrollment process, online or on paper, in person, a variety of ways, out at expos and events or in our office here, whatever's convenient to them. There are over 100 skill and interest areas that we have listed to help people think about the many possibilities of the type of service that fits for them, what they're interested in, what's appropriate and meaningful to them. We offer volunteer transportation reimbursement. Also, there's an accident and liability coverage that comes through AmeriCorps as a part of their enrollment with us, if anything were to happen while they're in service. The other important piece is volunteer recognition, gifts, and celebrations, so that we're really highlighting the importance, whether it's a couple hours a year or several days a week throughout the year. We need all of the volunteers that we can get, and we want to make sure that they're recognized for that. As you can see, there are 44 Wright County seniors that are active right now this past year, and they've served over 4,000 hours. We're obviously ramping back up after the pandemic and getting more volunteers out there and finding more. But this number does not reflect the additional 30 or more volunteers from RSVP coming to Wright County to serve from our other, we have the 4-county area, so Sherburne, Stearns, and Benton. So we are sending volunteers here to help with projects and service needs in this area. It's a fine balance of getting the partnerships and the needs, but also getting the volunteers and lining them up, with what conveniently works for locations and schedules. And we're partnered with 15 organizations right now. It's, like Jennifer said, healthcare, government agencies, and nonprofits. And those include specific Wright County, such as the Food Shelf in Buffalo, the Monticello Help Center, Crow River Senior Center, places like Wright County Health and Human Service here. We have some volunteers as well. But also the more regional agencies, Catholic Charities, Senior Community Services Home Program, Guardian Angels, things like that. So, that's kind of my role, is the matchmaker between the two, getting to know these community partners, getting to know what each area within Wright County needs so that I can learn and recruit and inform volunteers and make it easier for them to be connected and make it easier on the agency staff to get people that they need. You'll see our goals here really quickly, where we're going. Under our federal grant, we have the top priorities of food security, advancing K through 12 education, and then also mental health outreach. And through all of this, of course, increasing volunteer engagement. We do host a few events of our own besides matching with our partners. We have 8 food drives this summer. And so far we've engaged, just in Wright County, we're having 6. So I'm coordinating those and going toward that mission of food security. We've already engaged 579 community members out at the local grocery stores, just getting them aware, giving them information about their local food shelf in their community. And then also raising 729 pounds of food and $646 back to those local food shelves. We do have, if you want to see it in action, Otsego is this Wednesday. We're having Otsego Coburns from 8 to 11 a.m. And then in Buffalo at the Coburns on July 26th from 3 to 6 p.m. So we'll be out there. Pictures are up on the display. We'll be out there with our volunteers conducting those food drives again. Okay, so next we have our service and social. Thank you. Just a quick mention that this was another recruitment and also volunteer connection opportunity. We had really a lot of success, and we hope to be doing more things like this to highlight the importance and the ease of getting involved. We did Buffalo and Monticello Service and Social Projects in April, and each one had capacity of 20 brand-new volunteers each. So 40 brand-new people that had never been connected with us before and that were not necessarily connected to each other. And we were able to accomplish just a quick one-time event with them to give back to the community and get connected with others. Jennifer is going to tell you about another little adventure that we're on for mental health to get after our mental health goals.
Has anyone heard of CenterCare's Bounce Back Project? Yeah, okay, great. So the concept behind our new Happiness in Action program is to take the Bounce Back Project training and train our volunteer ambassadors to move those building happiness and health through resiliency concepts in our communities. And so we received American Rescue Plan funds to hire a part-time staff person who is working out of our desk space here in this building to recruit volunteers and train them on CenterCare's Bounce Back Project through the Train the Trainer program. And we are going to be scheduling those ambassadors to go out to area schools, after-school programs, senior centers, and any age of individuals in between groups that are interested in having a Happiness in Action program brought to them. So the idea is they will receive information on building resiliency to promote mental health. And also they'll be having a service component. So the volunteer ambassadors will be bringing a service project to that group and building that sense of volunteerism and instilling service, especially at an intergenerational level, working with youth to do that. So we're excited about this project and program and where it's gonna go. Next, we can't help but I know we've shared with you the impact the volunteers are making, whether it's through the food security or transportation efforts, but really the big thing that we want to stress is the importance that service has on the individuals on themselves that are giving back. They don't come to us because they want benefits. They want to get involved and do something good, but really there are numerous research that shows that volunteering decreases risks of depression and reduces stress levels and stimulates that release of dopamine in the brain to increase happiness. And so I just want to share a couple of our recent survey statistics that came through on satisfaction of our volunteers and being involved with our program. The last thing that I want to present is where we're at with our funding and support. And so our total costs for 2023 are projected at $448,937 to cover the program operating and volunteer benefits within our 4-county region. We rely on local government aid to maximize the AmeriCorps Seniors federal funding. And in our nearly 50 years of operation in central Minnesota, we'll be celebrating 50 years next year. We do annually receive financial support from our neighboring counties and municipalities. The return on investment is based on the total number of adult residents that gain opportunities to connect with community and are supported by RSVP to be or stay involved, and in doing so increase their overall well-being, reducing our healthcare expenses for our communities and our long-term care expenses. So as we move into year 2 of this grant in Wright County, we continue to focus on building those partnerships and rapport with local human service organizations and the 55+ population to grow our number of active senior volunteers to 75 by the end of year 3 of our startup grant. The federal AmeriCorps Seniors contribution to service in Wright County is $75,000 through our federal grant that we receive annually. And it does require a 10% local match. So we're currently looking for your support in helping us meet this local match, keeping in mind to date that we're supporting 44 active RSVP volunteers plus many non-residents traveling into Wright County to meet some community needs as well. We do follow a traditional funding request formula, and the RSVP operating expenses to support the current number of seniors at a local government level would be very close to that 10% match currently for Wright County. It's at $7,348. So as you consider the impact that this program is just starting to make in Wright County, we hope that you would consider providing some type of a local match to our program to continue to enhance the services that we're providing in this community. And at the conclusion of today's presentation, I will submit a electronic written request for any type of support you might be able to provide to us. The last screen is our staff, our full-time staff pictured. Carol and Tana Quimby are our program coordinators for the program. I serve as the director, and then we do have a full-time person that takes care of all of our bookkeeping and finances and marketing efforts, as well as everything in between. So I welcome any questions at this time or comments that you might have.
Questions?
Sure, yeah, I wasn't really aware of this, prior to the presentation and the presentation at Rotary, and it's just a great program. One thing I thought was cool when Carol had mentioned that they would go to the local grocery stores, and if there's a food need, they can hand people a card, would you be willing to take this and buy this item, for the food shelf? So it's an actual concrete way to do it instead of people having a special, making a special trip or whatever, and then they can just hand the item to the volunteer on the way out. So I thought that was a really just cool example of things that you can do that is easy and has good results. So, but yeah.
We've been hosting more one-time community projects and efforts more than we ever had before COVID, and I think that has to do with where we're at today and our desires and needs to engage as many people as we can so they can get out and be a part of the community and not only reap those benefits but meet those needs of our community partners in alternative and different types of ways as well. I agree. It's a neat program.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Delight.
Do you guys work with Wright County Community Action up in Maple Lake? You do, Kim?
We do. We have met with them. With your comment and not knowing much about this program, and absolutely, we're very new here, and we're learning that it's going to take a little while to continue to build momentum and get the word out. So yes, we have met with Wright County Community Action. And we will continue to work with them to see how we can reach their needs with supporting them and volunteers.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Vetch.
So looking through kind of the variety of different things in programming, and I know you guys are always looking for different things. Do you guys have any program that are connecting seniors and youth in terms of life skills? I just know, like, from my own kids, and there's a lot of things that are lost over the years, like small engine repair, and I know my kids wish I knew, and they wish their grandparents knew, but they don't, and they're looking for people that'll teach them woodworking, small engine repairs, and different things, and trying to get that connection between seniors and youth and being able to do things in the garage that their parents don't have the skills or their grandparents don't have those skills.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. And the beauty of this partnership is that we are open to exploring ways that we can get older adults involved, especially from an intergenerational aspect that I had mentioned before. Carol, do you want to say anything more to that?
I was just going to throw in, of course, because my background is as a community education director, and so I'm, that lifelong learning and that connection through community education is something that we have in every school district as an opportunity. So, that may be a way that we can partner, bringing adult seniors who have those skills, interests, hobbies, background, life skills, and connect them through a partner with youth. or anyone really that's interested in that. But I mean, we are open and creative and flexible. So if that's a need, we try to look at, who are the partners, how can we put the pieces together, not duplicating, but, maximizing things.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Witter.
I don't know if I might have missed it. Do you work with the Central Minnesota Council on Aging?
We do. We absolutely do. So we have partnership agreements, a memorandum of understanding with all of our organizations that we partner with, and they are one of our 105 organizations that currently have an MOU with us.
So do you also work like with the local, like the senior centers and stuff like that? Because a lot of those older seniors would probably help with what you were talking about, like woodworking and small engine repair and stuff like that.
Right.
Just a suggestion.
Right,
Steam
for sure.
engine repairs, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, even other things, yes. Antique tractors, yeah, you name it.
Yeah, we do have those partnerships already established with many of the local senior centers, and I know we've hosted our service and social event at both the Buffalo Community Center and the Monticello Community Center. Our St. Cloud office is out of the Whitney Center in St. Cloud, so we definitely have a pulse on those relationships with the senior centers and coming up with creative avenues to do programming.
Good, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't chasing you away. I was going to let the commissioners know. HHS, we're working with them, I think, in two capacities. One is around volunteer transportation, which is always kind of a unmet need. And then the other one is, given our new location and our large lobby and all the moving parts with HHS, we're looking for someone to be upstairs and as a lobby manager. Concierge makes it sound kind of fancy, but somebody to help. We have the new kiosks and things like that up there. And if it is a slow time, putting together packets and things like that. So we are also taking advantage of our RSVP volunteers.
Oh, nice.
You should. Yes, thank you.
Thank
Give
you.
the county money.
Next, we have review, approve amended fuel cards and transportation fund policy and procedure.
And I'll invite Michelle Miller to come on up with me. Board, as you know, we have, HHS, we have dozens of PNPs, our policies and procedures, and we bring them to the board at the end of the year just to kind of get that ongoing blessing that we're still, operating our policies and procedures, within what the county is looking for us to do, and we do it in tandem with the county policies and procedures. However, there's a couple of our PNPs that involve financial, as in this case, like fuel cards and things like that. So we are back here. It looks like it was 2014 since the last time that we updated this policy. And we have a few requests that I would say require board attention and approval, and Michelle will explain those to you.
Yes. So as Jamie mentioned, the last time we were here is in 2014. The policy is linked in your board packet. At that time, and since that time, we have kept about $2,500 in fuel cards on hand. So when social workers, financial workers, public health staff need those, they're available. I found out today that the price of gas in the end of 2014 was $2.14. So we've about doubled that, which is what we're asking to do for the amount of fuel cards that we have on hand. We want to double that. So have $5,000 on hand. I think a big part of our changes to the PNP, Jim and Joshua are here, and we've updated kind of our behind the scenes administrative process so that we can, we did that. And then we also did a lot of homework on what are the other programs and services that could actually be used to fund fuel cards. So those are some of the other language changes that you see is we're using OnBase so that it can be a much more streamlined process. We used to have two separate processes, one for financial services and their third floor, and then a different one for the Human Services Center. Those have been combined. So really there's been a lot of changes within this policy and procedure. The big piece is we bring it to board because of the amount of fuel cards that we have on hand. And so we're asking for your blessing today.
And just for transparency, and Christine could correct me if I'm wrong about this, because the county or fiduciary looks at fuel cards as the same as cash, I believe the $2,500 restriction was because that's the amount of cash that can be kept on hand at the local county level. So this is going to the $5,000 versus the $2,500 is as like would be we're asking for a waiver or something so we could keep $5,000 versus the $2,500 because we go through them so quickly and it's an administrative headache to keep getting them on. However, we do have safety, security, and things like that in place. They're kept in a safe and everything else.
Mr. Chair, are
Yes,
you
Commissioner
looking at changing the dollar? I mean, because you're doing $10 and $20. A $10 fuel card is like, I mean, it's not even 2 gallons of gas. I mean, it's hardly.
It's about two.
Yeah,
Right,
we
so-
increased our monthly and our annual amount.
So if you look under number C on page 2, fuel cards are limited, it was $50, and now we're going to $100 per client, not to exceed $500 per client per calendar year versus $300. And again, we feel the more money, if they can put their money in the gas or not in the gas tank, they can put it in their bread box, or, you know, they can spend the money for things that they need to live on. So we're seeing the inflationary, you know, constrictions that families are facing. We think this is a responsible thing to do. We put people through their paces when they come in and ask for them. You know, it's typically to follow through on, you know, job seeking types of things and, you know, different parameters that we have them, that they're looking for.
Okay, now that I see, yeah, you're purchasing them in the denominations of 10 and 20. Yep, now
And I
see.
believe our goal is to change the denominations to a single denomination that's higher than the $10.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the board, I spoke with Jamie earlier, and just so that people don't think an arbitrary number above the 2,500 was selected, the big part for me was the price of gas in 2014 versus now. And that's relative. That's a good business decision, in my opinion, to keep up, because it was approved in 2014 based on that price. We're doubling it as the price of gas doubled, and that makes sense to me.
The price of gas doubled in 2 years, so.
If we would have known, we would have been back here last year.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Witter.
And so it also talks about public transportation tokens. So this is something that they could take the bus and also go to the doctors or
Right,
groceries or
we
whatever.
do keep an inventory of Trailblazer tokens, and one of the reasons why we updated this policy, it was to remind staff, I think sometimes staff forget about that, so we included more information about how they can access the tokens on the first page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just want to, so we made that, I think, process the same as the process for the fuel cards,
Okay.
or based on it.
So this would mean then the person that, that would need that money would then talk to you about getting those tokens.
Right, yep.
Because they would be handling it themselves.
Sometimes
rather-
it's our outreach, our adult outreach worker, working with somebody who may be homeless and, you know, is looking for, you know, ways to get around and things like that. So at some point, they're interacting with one of our staff. It's either a eligibility specialist or a social worker, sometimes a public health nurse, but they're working with our staff, and it comes, just like the funding streams are kind of coming from different places, the people that they're interacting with is kind of across the board in HHS, just based on need.
Thank you.
So do we need a consensus board or an actual motion and a vote?
Motion.
Okay, if we have a motion or further discussion here.
I'll make a motion to increase that from 25 to 5,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll put a green light on it upstairs and start with the new amounts.
All right, next is approve request to create opioid settlement advisory committee.
Yes, board. So I believe this discussion started at a workshop, maybe in May or June, maybe June. So what I'd like to is invite Sarah, Becky Graham, and Ellie Vanas up to walk through what they've created as far as what we believe the board was looking for at that workshop. Also in attendance today is Christy Caravo. She actually, oh, there she is, from our county attorney's team. So she's also here to answer any questions you may have.
Well, it's, okay, it did come up. Hi, Commissioners. I'm Becky Graham, Public Health Nurse. We'll go through a quick little update. We were here in May at the workshop, giving you a little bit of an overview. Like Jamie said, Ellie is also here and Christy is in the back for questions. So we just wanted to start with a little bit of a timeline, going back to May, a couple things that we did. So you'll notice on here that there are a couple check marks and then there are bullets. So the check marks indicate something that is already complete, and then the bullets are things still yet that we need to do. So I don't know, I can go through a couple of these kind of high-level overview of things we did. We do have an opioid-specific county email address for communications. There is an opioid settlement advisory council page on the Health and Human Services website. It is on the public health page. And on that is also the advisory council application. Both are live currently. Thank you to Jim's team over there. You'll note on here that there's a request to obtain rights to utilize the Colorado Blueprint, which is it's sort of a community assessment, community partner assessment tool. It gives people a hypothetical scenario. If you were given $100 million to help abate, sort of the damages that have been done, how would you allocate those funds? And then they have to put certain dollar amounts into certain things. And that just sort of gives us an idea of where people think the important areas for these opioid dollars are. It was started in the Colorado Institute of Health. So several other counties that we know of are using this as well as a tool to help guide their funding. So that's one avenue we're looking at going to. Developing draft bylaws for the advisory council with the immense help of Christy at the attorney's office. We do have draft bylaws written, sort of a merger of the Public Health Task Force and the state opioid council that Sarah sits on. We are here today presenting to you guys to ask for a recommendation, like it says there in the July area, and then developing a special revenue fund is a requirement in the state memorandum of agreement. So that is something we also need to decide. And I don't know if Sarah, maybe you'll speak to that about Human Services managing that in the fiscal department. And then I'll let Ellie talk about this in a future slide, but we did create some abatement strategies, sector-specific guides to help people understand sort of where their role is and how they can fit into this work. August going forward, it's going to be here before we know it. We do expect funds to be released. Sounds like any day, but I've heard that for a really long time. So they say July and August. They cannot be spent until August 1st. And then we're told that the Attorney General will also have sort of a payment schedule on their website. So we'll know, how much we anticipate getting each January, I believe is what we're told. We then hope to adapt the Colorado Blueprint to sort of meet our Wright County needs. And we would like to rename it, obviously not using Colorado as the term. We would like to open the application for the Advisory Council in August and then start spreading that to potential sectors. September is where ideally we would hold our first meeting, and then we would work there to educate sort of the members on who were appointed to what the best practices in opioids, sort of abatement, treatment, recovery, prevention, sort of how we can best use these dollars. And then that group would help work to develop a request for proposal where we would then send that out and people could apply for funds. Let's see, October, we would like to release that funding prioritization survey, which is the former Colorado Blueprint, to community partners. And, a lot of us staff would take it as well. Develop a process in which the funds would be applied for. That would be a council goal is to, we had talked at the original workshop meeting that we would work as a group and then we would bring forward those RFPs to you guys as a board for final approval. And then we would analyze as a group sort of those surveys that we get back on how to use the funding. Looking far forward, but it'll be here before we know it. I think I already talked about promoting completion of the funding survey, so I think that's in the wrong spot. But just continuing to expand on the process in which the funds will be applied for, getting everybody from the Opioid Advisory Council on the same page, and making sure everyone's working towards a common goal. And then tailoring that RFP to basically reflect what the funding survey results came back with, and then releasing the RFP to partners would hopefully be by the start of the new year. Any questions on this timeline?
Yeah, I like how it's, very thought out well, So, yeah, Mr. Chair, sorry, I jumped in.
All right, anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Delyden?
Rebecca, what are you guys planning on doing with the funds? I mean, some of the ideas that I'm assuming you have, and maybe you're going to be talking about that yet.
The list of what work can be done is very, very extensive. It's all in the memorandum of agreement from the Attorney General's office. There is a link in here to, maybe not to the MOA, but it is all listed in the Exhibit A of the MOA. Very, very, very long list. Not quite exhaustive, but pretty close to it, exhausted. So we won't be choosing what work will be done. That's what the community will apply for those funds. And then as the review group from the Opioid Advisory Council would agree sort of where to kind of put those funds, then you guys would have the final say in that.
So that the county could make an RFP for funds if we had a need.
Correct. I believe the recommendation from the attorney's office was anybody that would utilize these funds would go through that same RFP process, even if it was a county department.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I know that
Commissioner Newsom.
this kind of came up in a way when the Central Minnesota EMS was requesting, a portion or percentage and whatever from the counties in the region, and we sort of generated that discussion, or when are we getting these funds and how are they going to be distributed? So it's nice to see this thoughtful process and application and that kind of thing, rather than saying, yep, we'll give you 10% and or whatever. So it'll be, I'm sure there'll be a lot of requests, but that's certainly, I'll just throw a plug in for it. It's certainly a very worthy organization for sure. Well, all of our EMS in Wright County, they need that for all their services. So
With all the guidelines in there, is there anything recommended on what parking place the money goes to initially and sits until it's doled out somewhere?
So it speaks specifically to having a special revenue fund. You have to have a specific fund for opioid settlement dollars. That is all laid out in the MOA, yes.
So I think today, I'm sorry.
No, go
I
ahead.
think today, and after the rest of the presentation, we probably are looking for 2 actions from the board. One would be to set up the receiver for those special funds. We would like it to be an HHS, just because it looks like that's where a lot of the work is going to fall regardless. And the other one would be to, as they provide you with more information around the committee and the representation for the committee, for us to just to adopt what they're presenting as far as setting up the committee and the items that they've laid out thus far. Or maybe it's one motion, I don't know.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Witter.
so will this money be something that you'll have ahead of time, or do you have to spend something and then apply to get
I'm going to say something that I'm going to let Sarah correct me afterwards. So we are expecting the first payment in either July or August, and that's why we need to have a kind of a receivership, whatever, set up, a fund to hold on to it. And then it sounds like every January for 18 years, or maybe 17 years starting in January, we'll get another payment. And I believe that those funds would stay together until they're spent. Am I close? Am I good? Whoa, okay, yeah. So
Okay, so you don't have to spend them first and then recoup those. Okay, ask
Right.
for the money.
the money will
afterwards.
come to the county, right?
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
So
Commissioner
Christie,
Newsom.
is that a good place for these funds to live with the HHS as opposed to like the county attorney's office or somewhere else?
I think so. I mean, when you look at the fact that public health is supposed to be the chief strategist and they carry reporting duties on how the money is spent and application review duties, it does seem to be the best fit. It does. And
Our heart wouldn't be broken if it wasn't, but I think it does make sense.
I agree.
So I would just add the reporting agency and the financial, all of that goes to DHS, and that's a relationship that, I mean, Human Services already has with all of their fiscal entities and stuff. So that was the other piece, is we just already have that communication relationship with them.
And it can't be in our budget, it has to remain separate.
Yeah, it still has to be
Yep.
separate.
Oh. Oh, did you want to finish with the presentation, then get into the other two items?
Sure. A few things that I'm going to go through are things that we already discussed when we were at the workshop in May, but I'll just kind of recap. This is what we came up with for our list of sectors that we would like to see represented on our advisory council. We're trying to both be very wide geographically as well as very wide of experiences, very wide roles in different areas of the opioid epidemic and the solutions to that. So we kind of made a pretty expansive list of what those could be. We're looking at capping 25 members. This can help us have enough voices to cover a wide variety of experiences and educations, as well as not be too many where it gets to be too difficult to make decisions. And this would be the full council as we go through the process and start looking at the RFP acceptance and approval process. There's the potential to have subcommittees of this or make it smaller in order to make other decisions easier for us. We also briefly talked about this at the last time workshop, but kind of some characteristics of who we're looking to recruit in this process. Folks who are open to education on best practices for opioid prevention, treatment, and recovery, who have the time to commit to the work. At this point, we're looking at minimum, a monthly meeting, excuse me, with a good chance of some homework in between those monthly meetings. Able to attend the meetings on paid time. We would also like to offer a stipend to those who are unable to be paid by their place of work or not coming on behalf of their place of work. A baseline understanding of the current work being done. We will assist in kind of the data preparation and publishing that both for the public as well as bringing on our advisory council members with that knowledge, who are champions of the work, who represent the county geographics and sectors, who are familiar with and can help us build that RFP process and can be part of making the decisions to guide the funding. Another thing that we did, Becky mentioned this earlier, is that we started developing some sector-specific guides. This will be mostly impactful during the RFP portion of our time with the council. We are really hoping to both help traditional sectors who work in the opioid epidemic and opioid abatement to view some new ways that they can do projects and use funds, as well as help non-traditional sectors find where their work might fit in the abatement strategies. So we have a currently 43-page guide broken up by, I think, 20 or so different sectors, just really trying to connect people with the work that's being done across the country and help bring some of those solutions local to Wright County. Becky.
So just to go back a slide to Commissioner Delyden, you had asked about a list of strategies or things that we think would be great to work on. So these come straight out of the memorandum of agreement. So there's a list of these, and like Ellie said, some sectors have 4 or 5 pages of things. So the strategies come specifically out of that guide. So this is our proposed timeline, assuming the board agrees to move forward with having an opioid settlement advisory council. So today is obviously July 11th, but we're hoping to open the application for the council. Like I said, it is live, but we haven't really promoted it. So promoting it, and then August 19th closing that, so you give people a month to fill out the application. August 22nd, the advisory council members would be presented to you guys at a board meeting for approval. We would then hold our first meeting on September 13th, and then in the time between September and January, work towards having that RFP released.
Do you have any concerns, Becky? That's a pretty tight time frame there between the August 19th and the August 22nd.
So we have access to the email address that they're coming to, so we would be looking at them as they come in and sort of sorting them to sector-based. Sorry about that. So I think a 2 or 3 day turnaround would be okay, but thank you. Oh, that application packet. Was talked about that today. these are adjustable. I think if we need to adjust them and adapt them, that's completely fine.
What kind of means are you using to post the application process? Where is that
So
gonna be?
it is on the county website, and the application currently is it's a joint application, so it is on several pages. I understand it's the same application as the task force and the Mental Health Advisory Council. You just then select a different opioid advisory council is the bottom choice on there, and then the questions are specific to that. I believe at the workshop, it was mentioned that you guys would like to choose or have some say in somebody from your community. So you can definitely go out and, share this link with people you think would be good fits. We would use our connections with partners that we've formed in the past. We could use our social media and the website. We have lots of, I would say, advertising avenues.
Just for maybe the board here, if you flip to that list where they're open for 25 spots, there's, I think, 18 different categories, but would this be the time if we wanted to give any input that maybe one or more could be combined and maybe shorten that list? Because when you talk about 18 to 25 people, a couple of them look similar.
Mr. Chair, I guess that was my concern, and, it just seems like 25 might be a lot, but I guess you've kind of been through that with another committee, that you had a lot of people, and it involved more meetings and hard to.
So looking at this and say you have it ideally 25 members, realistically at any given meeting, you're probably gonna get 14 at best to show up. Of that
I suppose,
14, 5 of them are gonna be public health, health and human services. So really at that point, you're only getting 9 people that are outside of the Wright County organization potentially. So I say keeping it somewhere in this sector is probably gonna be ideal, just because having it, even if we do it at 3:30, you're still gonna have a real hard time getting, because we have a hard time on our mental health ones, getting the attendance that we ideally like. So I'd start with this, and as positions maybe a year or two from now, we can reevaluate the size at that time.
One consideration maybe would be the local municipality, city or township. I don't see a need for more than one of each. So we have a city and we have a township represented for our, unless you think you need more widespread from a city and a township. Is that official or a resident or?
So it is a requirement that we interact with the cities as part of the state and local agreement at least once a year. So whether or not we have a representative, and I don't think it matters if it's a city or a township, we will still have to have a meeting where they're all invited.
Okay.
If that's because that's written into the agreement. And it has to be a public meeting, so it has to be posted. And I think obviously you can see that staff and attorney's office are well-versed in all the ins and outs of the local agreement. So we will make sure that we have all of those ready when we get audited by DHS. But, I think we had discussed going to a mayor's meeting, for instance, and suggesting that they come up with one representative. Similar with education, that they pick a representative and they're responsible for reporting back. Mr. Chair, if I may make a comment. Commissioner Vetch, I think one difference from this than the Mental Health Advisory Committee is that people will be joining because there are funds involved. So I think at least the first year, there might be a little bit more interest, and then we'll see where it goes.
Very true.
So, Mr. Chair, Sarah, you're thinking of going to individual council meetings, or like the Mayor's Association doesn't meet now until September, so.
To meet the requirement?
Oh, I see. When
Yeah,
you're
so what we
getting
can.
information out. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can, that's a little bit, we can certainly do that after the fact. We'll probably email every government body and let them know if they would like us to present. We can figure that out. Hopefully we could just send them this, like maybe this YouTube link would be kind of nice for some folks, as another way of just promoting it, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great presentation, so.
They did a nice job.
All right. You had couple more points after the, are you done with the
Nope,
presentation?
I think that's it. I think love to see a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set up a special revenue fund for the opioid settlement.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. For discussion, I'd like to hear from finance as far as there's anything we need to consider as far as the parking spot for the money. And some here might want it all to go to HHS. I guess as sitting up here and trying to decide, I'd like to hear if make sure there's nothing we're missing about all the record keeping or whatever. We got the ARP, that's going a different way with the process and project manager. This is drawn out for 18 years. Where would we stand with a review of that?
So here's how I see it. I mean, ultimately, any finance, even whether it's housed in HHS or not, it's still overseen by central finance. So at the end of the day, the reporting, like a lot of things, will be done at the granular level with HHS in terms of the reporting to DHS, but it'd still then be oversighted and is part of any audit of anything of centralized finance. I don't foresee, but I could be wrong, centralized finance having any issue of it being managed at the granular level at HHS, but.
And we've centralized our staff already, so our staff are part of the centralized efforts.
Yep.
Is there any harm in getting input from them? I don't want.
There isn't any, no, I mean, I think if you, I mean, I just would hate for us to, I look at you, you're better off for us moving forward with this so we can get something done versus holding out for a whole 2 weeks or longer, because you can always pivot it later on if you decide to create it and you decide, you know what, it's not going to be housed there. It's just a simple board meeting and transferring it from HHS back to finance to manage it at a later date. But I think in the meantime, getting it set up and getting it going with it so they can get the funds received would be prudent of us.
Okay.
Well, it's still a separate fund. It
Right.
has to be kept separate, so I'm sure it'll be housed in finance, but.
Yeah, money in, money out. Yep.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll make a motion to approve the request to create the opioid settlement advisory group, with Rebecca Graham being in charge of getting all those people.
Communicating for 18 years. That sounds great.
Motion
She
made.
can't retire
She
for
can't
18
retire.
years. You're stuck here.
She's young yet.
Motion made and seconded to form the advisory group. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So now, whoever's doing the minutes, Amy, you made sure that Rebecca got top billing for that. Okay, good.
Yep. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I have to step up for an energy transition meeting. So.
Then we have director's comments
Just a few
next.
director's comments, yes, thank you. You should have in your board packet a letter directed to Mr. Van Epps supporting a request from Community Dental for funding from the BAME Foundation that went out to them in June. I also wanted to share with you, you should have in your packet the list of 5 recipients for our, that we awarded project funding for through our SHIP grant. This is, I think, about the first time that we actually took this step using some of our SHIP funding, which is for community well-being, and did an RFP process. So you can see the 5 recipients. I think we had a total of, actually, I'm on public health folks leave. 20? Thank you. This is Keith. He led this initiative and brought us all together, so we were able to review all of the 20 requests, and the 5 that were awarded you see here. So the Alleluia Lutheran Church for a meditation garden, Functional Industries for accessible picnic tables, North Winds and Discovery Elementary Schools for social emotional learning curriculum, Timber Bay, a truck project, and Wright County Community Action for falls prevention. The falls prevention issue has come through HHS a few times. It's kind of one of those I would say gaps potentially between, like, maybe the sheriff's office might go out to a situation where somebody has fallen, looking for resources for that individual, and, Health and Human Services doesn't really have a placeholder for that type of programming. So looking at community action, we think this would be a great place for them to be able to work with some of our, particularly seniors who fall and maybe could benefit from some mitigation for fall prevention. I just wanted to give the commissioners, again, a heads up. I can't remember if it was in a workshop or at a board meeting, where we were discussing along with planning and zoning, some of the issues that came in front of both of our two departments and what that would look like for environmental services. And as a result of that discussion, both Commissioners Wetter and Commissioner DeLayden joined us on an environmental services committee. That committee met twice. There are 3 recommendations. It seems premature to bring these to you right now, so I do have a write-up. If you're interested, I can pass that out. But basically what I wanted to point out, if you're aware of planning and zoning, just had a resignation in the water treatment area. So just so you know, some of the information that we were working with within that committee might be predicated on the fact that that person is leaving. And so we've had a discussion with Ned, and our public health will be taking on water testing probably like tomorrow. I mean, very soon here versus we were hoping for a much longer lead time. But the 3 recommendations coming out of that committee, we'll come back and do a presentation, probably be asking you where you want this to end up at a personnel committee or a committee of the whole. Our first recommendation was to streamline environmental health complaint process by July 1st, 2023. Then along with each goal is activities and consensus and things like that. The second recommendation is for Wright County Public Health will become an MDH delegated entity by 2027. That would involve reaching out to people, entities, people in the community, learning more about that. So that's kind of got a 5-year goal on it. The third recommendation is utilize existing funds to hire a 1.0 FTE public health staff by October 1st. Pending board approval. So that's where I was kind of going with the water testing. Of course, there's some duties that come along with that. Health and Human Services has had a vacant 0.5 health promotion coordinator position. And we've also been paying planning and zoning $47,500 to do some of our nuisance work. So we were talking about putting those 2 things together for dollar neutral 1.0 FTE. So we could either come back another time, or if you wanted to give me direction about where to go with that, now that this is kind of being foisted on us sooner than what we were really anticipating.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner DeLayden.
one of the things I know that we had discussed, I don't know, did Sarah leave?
Way in the back. She went way to the back.
Just like in church.
Yep.
I know one of the things we talked about is to contact the hotels, motels, and those different things, restaurants, to see if there's interest in us taking it over. I don't know.
That would just be for delegation, correct, yeah. But we have existing activities that need staff.
So if that delegation were to go through, I think what they were talking about is like 2 additional at 1 FTE, so 2 additional FTEs to do that delegation work, which is then funded by fees. The position we're talking about now is not the delegation work, it's the existing work.
Okay.
It just hasn't landed anywhere, I guess, is what the nature of it is.
So, yeah, I continue to cover nuisance complaints and investigations.
And now water testing.
And, well, we have some staff who are wonderfully stepping up to learn, and we are expecting an AmeriCorps volunteer.
Nice.
So,
One of the things that we found out, which we didn't know going into this, is that the requests for water testing come almost solely from our child care and foster care homes. So that's one of the biggest places where they're looking to have their water tested. So it does make sense for public health, HHS, to be doing the water testing.
Those are for just strictly locations that are remote and aren't attached to a city?
correct, well water. It's their private wells.
Yep. I'll make a motion to get the process moving, because I know that by the time you get it,
I'm looking at the October 1st date, I'm thinking, wow, that's going to come up pretty soon.
a job description, an application, all that sort of stuff, it'll
So would you like this to go to a committee of the whole or a personnel committee?
For what purpose?
To look at that 1.0 FTE or how that's going to work with planning
That
and
would
zoning?
have to probably go,
I suppose I'll have to go
yeah,
to
personnel first.
personnel.
Probably.
Send that to personnel.
All right,
Because then they'll, if they're gonna be posting for the spot that just resigned, they'll have to potentially reword that description too, right?
We're not taking anything off of that supervisory position that is in planning and zoning other than water testing.
So that part though, would that affect like the classification, the grade?
I think the water testing is probably well below the supervisory, what they would be overseeing typically. We were thinking an HHS would probably be more like a case aid.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that would be more just like one of the duties of what the
That's right.
Environmental guy was doing, so.
Thank you.
I had a question about the CHIP grant money, Jamie. So
Yes.
there's about 70,000 left in that account. Was there a plan for that moving forward?
Yes, I asked Sarah about it right before the meeting. Sarah?
Oh, convenient.
It does get carried over into the next year, so we account for it in our next year's budget.
As far as these projects though, you have an app on the site and if someone wants to apply for it anytime, they
So-
can?
We haven't regrouped yet, so this is fairly new. I think what we would be doing is talking again to see about issuing another RFP and what that would look like.
Yeah, so that app is closed, and we would have to regroup and then decide. I think based on both some of the applications we got and and I wasn't part of the process, I tried to stay outside of it so that in case there was any troubleshooting, I didn't have any bias or conflicts, but I know that I heard that there were probably some rewording or some language we wanted to change, especially when we got to reviewing, because some of the things we would have liked to have funded, we ran into some barriers with MDH. So streamlining or
We had some
helping
very
folks.
creative, but I would say we had some very creative
Yeah.
applications with doing a lot of good work. So we did try to redirect some of them, and other ones, we could maybe come back and have them retool it so it would fit the requirements that MDH has for around policymaking and sustainability and things like that.
So it's, the deadline closes until the first of the year again? Or who?
No, we could
That's-
reopen it if we
Oh.
wanted to.
Yeah, it's not currently open right now, and the funding period for SHIP is November. So like our grant timeline for SHIP is we had to close out our year, right? It goes November, doesn't it?
So we had.
Just come on up. Sorry, they'll be better at answering than I will.
So it's extremely confusing during the 2 years we were working with COVID. So our staff could not dedicate their time to the SHIP project, so we have rollover dollars. The rollover, one of the COVID rollovers had to be spent by June 30th. So that's why we rushed this first wave of RFPs through to meet that June 30th deadline.
Got it.
But we anticipate future waves.
Yes, we can continue doing this RFP process in the future.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a plan or if it's just gonna be parked there until it's a slow time.
Plan is to
and
make
then
a
you pull it
plan.
out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Shouldn't be open right
and that's good.
Yeah, it's not open right now. If individuals go to our website, I think we talked to your group last week, Jim, about getting that taken off, yeah.
So you're gonna regroup and then post it again? Okay, well, I was just wondering where that extra goes, is there's an interest out there for it so that we
I'm sure
let
there's
people know.
interest.
Yeah.
We will find a good place for
We're
it.
just trying to catch our breath from doing it the first time here.
Right.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you. I just have one other item, and this is just more a perspective. I appreciate the board looking at first of all, getting the new RAISE committee all together and looking at things. My staff are going to get very excited when they hear what I'm talking about, I think, about flexible working hours and open office type of hours and things like that. I just wanted to make sure, my sole concern, I think, around this whole area is around teleworking. You know, we have a fifth of our staff, so 48 staff are currently teleworking. So just wanting to make sure that the way that we're looking at telework and as we continue on, that we're taking that into consideration. So we know that work culture is changing, and to retain and attract staff, allowing additional flexibility within both the work location and hours may be positive outcomes. We want to ensure that our agency mission to strengthen, support, and service our community is not compromised. We know that there's lots of variables out there. We deal with them all the time. As the most, I would say the most versed users of telework program in the county, we've gained valuable experience and lessons. So our telework program has demonstrated increased efficiency and work productivity, along with, I would say, just a better work satisfaction. We did, I think we brought it to the board about a year and a half ago, that the work satisfaction and the amount of time that people had to use to take PTO and things like that was decreased. So everything's good as far as that goes. One of the requirements that we do in HHS is, as you know, is that we send our teleworkers out with an increased caseload, which has then reduced the number of FTEs that we've asked for over the last, since we've implemented. In some areas, we have them take a 20% increase. So if we have 5 teleworkers go out in one area, let's say child support or financial, that equates into 1 worker, that we then freed up to do other work. So this is just my concern going forward, not even actually a concern, just an awareness. That there's value to having high quality staff in the office together. I'd say having teleworkers, it has taught us that people do, and during COVID, obviously, people do miss having that interaction, and sometimes it does impact how people, especially new people, come into our agency, how they can interact with everybody in one place and have that true work learning capacity. And so moving all county staff to have the ability to work from home on a routine basis puts HHS in a compromising position. And I think we might just be a little bit different than some of the other departments because of how we've addressed telework. That's maybe different than how we are looking potentially at a more hybrid or a more flexible workspace. And I applaud looking at flexibility. I think this is a great direction. I think it will provide a lot of continuity and retention for staff. I just want to, not compromise anything that we've done over the past year since we brought it to the board and brought up the telework position or telework program from its infancy. And I think it's working really well.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Glenn.
Jamie, is one of your, is a member of your team on that RAISE committee?
Yes, Jill Puller is.
Okay, so then she has some input on the concerns and of.
I would say so. I think a concern that she's shared with me, though, is that it sounds like they'd kind of want to start from scratch, and that is my only concern.
Well, I think a lot of it's because there's a lot of different departments into it, and they're just trying to figure out what will work.
Absolutely. I would love just to be able, just to kind of hit the ground running and saying what's working, what could work better, and take it from there. So.
And with Jill's input, I'm sure eventually she'll convince them.
Yep. She's got it all worked out, so.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Newsom.
I appreciate the way that this telework was done. I mean, when you kind of created this, and however many years ago we approved the first 12 going out, and recognizing that you'd send 12 out per year,
Right.
so they could.
We'd be ready for the new building when it came.
And we didn't even know that at the time, that there'd be a new building coming when it did, but it proved, pretty quickly how successful it was, and how efficient people were getting work done and having a landing day so they come back. I think
Right.
it's been a good program.
That's absolutely how we looked at when we did have the new building coming in, and how everything, you have a good memory with the 12. Yes, our first pilot was with 12 individuals, and but 48 people really constitutes 1 out of 5 of our staff. So we really already have a pretty big contingent that are working primarily from home. So I think it might be I'm going to be in a little bit of a different place responding to the requests for information, because we kind of gauged how we work already, considering those 48 staff are working from home.
And not everyone wants to work from home, nor
Right.
should.
I
just
do keep
because
an
they're
eye-
more efficient,
Yeah.
with other people.
We do have a pretty extensive EIO board, people are in and out, and one of the things that they would mark down on the EIO board is if they're working remotely for the 1 day per pay period, they're in yellow. And some teams have people that are in yellow, that are working the 1 day every 2 weeks, and some places really don't even have that. So I think it'll be really interesting as this goes forward to see what it looks like for staff still coming into the office. I think
Yeah,
it'll
'cause we
be,
definitely need people in-house.
yes, we do.
So Jamie, would you say that the most you have at home on a given day is 1/5? So like 40-some people is the most that are gone and working from home?
There's people gone entirely. They're just off. So if you count those people, I would say at any time, between 10 and 20% of staff have the day off.
No, I'm not, I'm just
But
saying
then-
telework people.
Telework people, yeah, so they're all, most of them are out 4 days and in 1 day. So that would be accurate. Of those 48, 20% are in each day. Some of them are in twice a week versus once a week, but I think most of them are in just one time a week.
Okay.
So we developed our space upstairs on second floor to accommodate the numbers that we were thinking were going to be teleworkers when we started out.
Yeah, that was actually built into the plans when we
Right.
were getting input from the different departments, and you recognize the fact that you wouldn't need as much as, you know,
Space.
you would have
Well,
thought, because we've got people
right.
remotely working.
I recall being told by the architect at the time that it saved $660,000 in just building that floor space out if we had all those people in. And that's even considering the fact that we have these other collaboration and the telework spaces. So I don't want to, I want this all to work well. I just wanted you to be aware that HHS is just kind of already sitting already on teleworkers. So looking at a different iteration is just going to kind of be a little bit different for us. But thank you.
All right. Anything else? Okay. Then
Mr.
go-
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Wetter.
Going back to that water deal, would you, what has to be tested for your purposes, or, and
Sarah?
then would you have like a little lab or something at HHS or not?
Right, so I think they,
Jill can answer what has to be tested.
oh, really?
From
Okay.
past history, it actually has to do with our foster care licensing homes and our daycare homes that have well water. By licensing standards for foster care and daycare, they're required every single year to have a well water test. So then the planning and zoning has just gone out and done a basic well water test kits. They're checking for nitrates and different things to make sure it's safe for drinking.
Coliforms and, okay.
So
that
it must
sort
be
of
just
thing.
collecting a sample of water and then doing like a, kind of just like an at-home test, but for water? I
Well,
mean,
they,
but we
well,
would do
they
it
send,
in-house
they,
for
they
us.
have to send it.
So does it get sent out then to a lab then, to be legal, or?
It's legal. There's a lab. There's a lab down the hall.
Yeah, okay.
So they do a basic absence or presence for coliform, and then they do presence or absence for nitrates, and then they do a photospectrometer for the value.
Okay.
We sound smart already about it, and I have no idea what this is all about.
We
Water
know a lot
testing
about
is like,
magnesium in
I can
water.
do,
I
right,
can
manganese.
do that too.
Manganese,
sorry.
yeah. No,
I got
we're
the
not
wrong
testing
one,
for
yeah.
manganese. It is not a metal test. We don't
Or
do-
arsenic.
Nope, arsenic, nope. Those would all have to go out, but yeah, it's just the basics.
Okay, I just wanted to know, when you're looking for this person to do some of that, what would entail?
Right, and we did look at that. Actually, the position that we were looking at, I believe, we did look at the union steps too. I think the position, I was afraid it was going to be 3 or 4 steps higher, but it's like 1 step higher than our health promotion coordinator positions that we have right now. So it actually does fit pretty nicely within our grid. And the other thing, Sarah has checked with some other counties, and several counties, mostly larger counties, do have this service in their public health area.
Within there.
They just call it health services.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else?
That's all, thank you.
All right. Well, motion to adjourn at 2:52. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting. Yeah.
Sorry, it takes me a while to think up these questions.